Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today I've got an absolutely superb guest mentor for you. So without further ado, I shall let him introduce himself with his drummer stats. So, your name please, sir.
Russell Gilbrook.
Wonderful. And years playing, Russell?
Oh, actual playing from the
Well,
first time I had my lesson.
yeah, or the first time you jumped on a kit, which I presume be all your life, really, I'm guessing.
Okay, yeah, it's almost been all my life. So we're talking of 55 years.
Brilliant. So, well seasoned then as well.
Well seasoned, yeah.
Oh, brilliant. And okay, groups and artists that you've played for, past and present.
Wow, okay. Helen Shapiro, Alan Price, Tommy Cooper. You've got to put some comedians in there. It's part of your apprenticeship of learning to read and do the cruise ships and cabarets or whatever it is. Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath, obviously Uriah Heep, 17 years in April next year.
Wow.
Avantasia, rock opera German band. John Farnham, Five Star. Pete Barden's out of Camel. Van Morrison. That's all I can think of at the moment. Old Boy Meets Girl, if anyone knows that from the 80s as well.
Oh, right, that's it. Yeah, a lot under your belt then, mate. Certainly a good person to help.
Good cross section, which is
people.
the main thing for me as a drummer.
Yeah.
The great Bob Armstrong, bless him, was my teacher, well known in England, obviously, and gave me the correct tuition so that I wanted to play the drums for a living. And you've got to have all of those ingredients to cover all the gigs.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that actually brings us on to the next drummer stat quite nicely, actually, which is, are you self-taught or schooled, or a bit of both?
I'm schooled, and the great Bob Armstrong. My last lesson was I was 14. He said, "This is your last lesson." I actually started crying because I really did. I went to Bob from the age of 6 to 14, and I just had wonderful, wonderful lessons and wonderful time. He became a good friend of my dad and myself. And he just said, "Look, you've got to go now. Last lesson. You've got to find yourself and be yourself. Otherwise, you'll end up sounding like a mini Bob Armstrong, and no one wants that." So that was it.
Oh, that's actually brilliant. That's really really good. With all the people I've spoken with and stuff, and I've never actually heard a tutor say, "Right, that's it, go off and do your own thing," which is really vital, really, isn't it? Like you say, otherwise you end up with just the identity of someone else rather than your own.
Oh, I'm a strong believer of 50-50. I really do think you need technique to be shown the correct technique, which will serve you the foundation to do the skills you need. But there's got to be times you've got to throw the books away and you just got to play, record yourself, hear yourself, and start adapting all of what you've learned and tweak things to try and be yourself. Who wants to play Rosanna, for Christ's sake? If people spend 3 months trying to learn play Rosanna, which they never do, it's his way of playing. He played that halftime shuffle because it's easy for him to play in that manner. If you can't do all those ghost notes, why are you struggling to do them? Just do a halftime shuffle that suits your body makeup. It still swings. It still works. You're not going to get paid an extra fiver because you put all the ghost notes in.
Yeah, and I think it's almost a lot easier for people, especially with so much more being able to be done at home. So you end up with a lot more kind of bedroom musician into the fact that they just carbon copy and learn, rather than find your feet and your own niche and your own, tweaking and bits and pieces. It's like, I'm sure you'd know better than most, that the fact that once you play with so many different artists, they all have their own interpretation of the same
Correct.
groove, and
it wouldn't be right if we would have said, we're all born individual humans, so how can we be a carbon copy? And it doesn't really take a lot of skill to be a copyist. It just takes time and repetition to copy, which is what we do when we get our technique together. But as far as grooves, fills, and musicality is concerned, you've got to find your way. I've always said the best musicians are the ones that have to do it, and it takes time to learn the experience. You can't be an experience. You can have all the chops, all the playing, and it might not mean anything because time puts a special magic ingredient in that just gives you as a drummer you end up playing the right groove, the right feels, with the right intensity, all those things through the experience of living through it all. And it's not a put down to, oh, he's a great young 20-year-old drummer. Yeah, but he's going to be even better when he's 40 and even better when he's 50, because experience has to have that chunk of time. That's what I found. I mean, Simon Phillips is playing his arse off at the moment. You know what I mean? I'm not saying he didn't play great earlier, but there's certain aspects about people's playing when they get a bit older that they do become a little bit more, blimey. There's something cool about how you're playing that you perhaps wouldn't have played because you're a bit eager when you're young, you know?
Yeah, you actually find your own niche, your own groove of playing what everyone's so familiar with, but it's kind of almost got.
And it's all the absorbing of all the artists, all the music, and you've learnt that. Oh, I was too busy there. I was too simple there. I was, a bit unbalanced within my my own drumming setup. Yeah, all these things. Oh, I didn't think of stopping there, and all those things go here. And then the older you get, now if you want to call them mistakes or the wrong thing to play, they don't become wrong. You now learned, and that's how you become better, in my opinion.
Yeah. I can't agree. I always picked up a little tidbit from the drummer Jojo Mayer, and he said about technique, and he said, like, he used an analogy of if you could throw a trash can down the street, and if it makes the sound you like, then it's the right technique. There aren't any, like, obviously, yeah, there can be wrong ways in the respect that you end up hurting yourself because of the way you're doing it or whatever. But if you still find, I feel at least, if you still then find, your own way of doing something, and it sounds great and it looks great and it's comfortable to you and other people like it, then isn't that kind of finding your own way, isn't it? And getting
sound is everything. I said it to everybody. I said, I'm not interested in grips. I think it's the most overrated, stupid thing that people professorize over. It's crazy because, Greg Bissonette plays with his little fingers out. Oh, you got to keep your pinkies in. You got to keep your pinkies. No, you haven't. It's about the sound you create. Orthodox, match, French, German, American, whatever grips you want to talk about, they've all got one ingredient, which is the magic of playing drums: loose wrists. And if you have a loose wrist, your fingers and your grip will find its way. But the reason why people, for me, get obsessed with playing a certain way, because it looks good. They'll do orthodox. They think it looks good. Well, you don't get paid to look good, and it's only looking good becomes secondary to an audition in a band, if you like, right? There are plenty of session musicians who are ugly bastards, but they want all the recordings, right? But they wouldn't take them on tour. But as far as the grip's concerned, the snare drum doesn't know how you're holding the sticks. And the sound is the most important thing. And I've always got people on this one. If you rave about the orthodox grip, right, and the left hand for right-handed drummers is so good, then why is your right hand doing it? That's the end of it. If the match grip is good enough for your right hand, it should be good enough for the left hand. And if it isn't, and you find that the orthodox just happens to work to how your body mechanics work, great. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to get the extra fiver for playing orthodox. You're going to get the extra fiver because you killed the groove.
Yeah, exactly. I kind of agree with that. I mix and match between the two, and the only reason why I do is I find that for my left hand, if I'm playing lighter stuff, then I can get some really defined bounce, and some nice little rolls from using the orthodox. But as soon as you get onto a pop gig or a rock gig, there's no chance that I'm going to get away with the orthodox because I haven't quite got that power, because the way my hand likes to hold it. And,
that's all it is.
Like you say. Right, okay, yeah, you skip really back in the day when it was actually a marching drum. Well, then the angle maybe might have been easier. But now...
You can't do this, can you?
You can literally put the snare drum wherever you want, really, within limitation of its size and the bits around it. So, yeah. It's like... Yeah, make it easier.
And the social media is fantastic, and it's the most damaging thing and the most helpful thing. Yeah. And the problem is, you've got all these guys now obsessed with playing at 300 BPM, and I'm thinking, but for what gigs?
Yeah.
What, to show your mates, to show the drumming world that you can play 300. Oh yeah, his technique's amazing. Yes, but what is it doing? It's not paying his mortgage with that technique, is he?
No,
You know, it's
no.
a skill that you put in your back pocket. That if you get a call to be in, say, a death metal band playing blast beats all the time, then you bring that in. But how many of those gigs are around?
Yeah, and you know, and if we're realistic to look at it as well, if you're wanting to be a working musician, like you said, pay your mortgage, unless you get the top notch of those ones, how many of those style of gigs are gonna see you
There you
through?
go.
Really, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I earlier on I got pigeonholed into bits of black metal and the speed stuff because I'd honed my feet. I just had good double pedal, and and then with open hands over the top. But going further into those gigs and more into that, it was like actually the speed is irrelevant. It ended up being the feel of it, really. And yeah, I agree with you in the respect that everybody's trying to seeming to push the technique to outdo everybody with speed and linear playing and everything that's just fill every space.
Well, what they're doing is, by doing that, they've forgotten the whole point. The whole point is about the music. So what music is there when you're playing 300 BPM? There isn't anything. And at the end of the day, as I said, it's still, I'm not knocking it. It's a bonus to have these skills. Charlie Watts, as good as he was in a great band and earned him millions, right? Millions and millions and millions. And good luck to him. His playing didn't warrant any amount of speed technique, right?
Yeah.
He was about feel. It was about Rolling Stones, it's about feel. And he'll be the first one to turn around and say, if I had a gig with Dream Theater, not in a million years, he wouldn't even pass 2 bars in the audition. But that doesn't mean to say that that's the requirement. The requirement of playing busy or simple is determined by the music, and your playing should cover the music that you want to end up playing. If you want to be a professional drummer, you don't know what's going to be on the end of the phone when it rings for a gig. And if you can't play double pedal, you've lost out on that gig, those contacts, maybe a tour, maybe an album, maybe a gig for life. If you don't play, you hate jazz and a jazz gig comes up, and you can't play jazz, you lost out on all of that, the same things again. That's what Bob said to me. So you got to remember, there's one word you say when that phone rings, it's yes. And if you have to say no, that's what you got to work on.
Yeah, that's a brilliant way of looking at it, really. Yeah, you can get people and go, oh well, I'm a this guy or I'm a that guy, but yeah, surely that's just an immediate no to any other musician, artist or genre out there that's not in the field that you feel that you're an expert in. It's
Yeah, when you turn pro, you see, the thing is, when you turn pro, it takes you down roads. It takes you down roads where you can't practice 20 mambo rhythms because you love Latin music, right? And so if you end up going down the pop road, you're not going to play any mambo rhythms. So that gets, lost and forgotten. And if you've got a spare couple of hours and you want to learn it, that's still fine. But why are you learning to try and get all the mambo rhythms together when your career's going down a path? Nothing to do with that. You need to save your career. Get your groove, your simple 4/4 groove going, right? And make sure you're a nice guy on the road. Your kit sounds great. You're very consistent. All the things to keep that gig. Nothing to do with playing number 7 mambo or Afro-Cuban 6/8. Even though on the Uriah Heep record, the first record I did after joining the band after 3 weeks, there was a track on there, shuffle, and the middle bit, they weren't sure what to do. And I just slowly put my arm up. I said, what about putting an Afro-Cuban 6/8 in the middle? And they looked at me like I was, oh, what? Well, I'll play it. So I played it. It's on a record, and which is why I've always maintained to people, first of all, I adore the drums. That's it. My drum kit doesn't know what the hell I'm going to play, and it shouldn't do. I love drums. I love rhythm, melodies, everything about music and drums. So that's And so therefore, I don't believe in styles. You see, I don't believe in styles. I believe in rhythms, and you play different rhythmical phrases and grooves that fit into the music that you're playing. If it happens to be jazz, if people want to call my right hand jazz, they can. But I've played that right hand in indie, rock, funk, and I've played Afro-Cuban in a classic rock band. So what is it then? Well, I'm just playing a rhythm, and you hear it. You hear it as Latin, but I've just played it as a halftime groove in a classic rock band. So because I don't want to miss out on the glory of all rhythm in all styles, if you want to call it styles, to me, I'm just playing a rhythm that suits the musical project that I play. So I can't hate jazz or metal or anything. I'm just, right, there's another ingredient for my playing, another ingredient for my playing, and I can intertwine them all. So I just play drums. And you label it then. I'm not labeling it.
Yeah. That's an absolutely fantastic way of looking at it. Because like you say, to your point earlier, if you're going to be a professional at it, you don't know what's going to be at the other end of the phone, and there's no point in pigeonholing any of it. We are very lucky as drummers and percussionists to have less constraint than many other musicians in, like guitarist has just got set to his tuning and he can change his standards and things like that. But we can literally, like you say, you can take one groove and you can put it through so many different types of genre or style or whatever you want to call it. But if you play it well, you play it nicely, and then it fits, like you say, you came up with that brilliant idea and they looked at you like you're a bit bonkers, but it worked. Then,
well, they'd never heard of it.
Yeah.
So it may not have worked. But as an experienced musician, I could hear that it was going to work. And the good thing about the bass player, it was Trevor Bolder, he was with David Bowie, one in Ziggy, great bass player. So as soon as I he was now it completely transformed that middle section. I made them play a different way, and it gave that section what most songs need. They need to be movement, tension and release and everything. And it just worked. And I wouldn't have been able to, if I didn't know how to do an Afro-Cuban 6/8, because I don't like Latin, I'm just a rockhead, that wouldn't have gone in there. I'm not saying that it would have, it's not 100% right, that song's going to fail, but I'm now creating musicality with what I've learned and bringing it into on an album with a famous band. I mean, flipping hell, that's the whole point.
Yeah. That's brilliant, mate. So, wow, I think we've had a good guess for the beginning of this. Shall we hit some of the members' questions and see what?
Brilliant, mate. Brilliant.
What bit of wise and wisdom that you have for them? So we're going to start with the first chap, and he's asked. So it's James Dell, and he's from Sheffield in the UK, and he said. Is your drumming approach... I think you've kind of almost answered this, actually, but we could go further into this. He says, is your drumming approach the same live as it is in the recording studio?
Good question, James. You might hear some actually controversial difference of opinion when it comes to recording and live. Me, personally, I don't change anything. What I do is... my sound is my sound. My drums are my drums. My cymbals are my cymbals. And it's the job of the engineer, not the producer, the engineer, to know his studio and to mic up my drum sound properly. Now, obviously, in session, it's different. If it's a session, I will do the requirement of the artist or the producer, because they might be particular about a certain thing, and it's not for me to disagree. As a session, you do as you're told, but as a member of Uriah Heep with my own sound, the respect changes a bit, and I don't change anything. I've heard in the past when I've done sessions, I won't mention producers, who have claimed that you should have smaller cymbals and not hit them as hard in the studio. I've heard it a million times. Well, I'm telling you from my experience, and the producers I've used, very big producers, especially on the last 2 albums with Heep. I'm smashing the shit out of the kit, and he hasn't had an issue with anything. There's no dampening on my drums whatsoever. I've got a bit of foam in my 2 bass drums, and he puts a big what do you call it? Like like a duvet or something to make a tunnel. So you need a lot of separation on the bass drums. But even on the snare drum, there's no moon gel, there's no gaffer tape, there's no nothing. My drums are nice, wide and open. And it's because he said, you tune your drums well, you hit your drums consistent. He said, and the drum kit is supposed to bleed into each other. If you tuned it right and hit it right, it sounds great. There's no need to start trying to muffle it and turn it into something it isn't. It's an open drum, supposed to breathe. So in the studio, I don't play any different, and I don't want to, because I want to be free to express myself. When I'm playing live, I'm free. I feed off emotion and passion. Now, why should I be now consciously thinking that I can't do this and you mustn't do that, and it feels different because I've got a 16-inch crash when I'm used to a 9. All those things on a recording, which is really important. I don't want anything stopping me. So I play exactly the same way. And the only reason I do is because I haven't been told that it's wrong. I've had a producer try to bully me because he thinks he knows. That's a different entity. I did a session once with a famous producer who I won't mention, and he took the front head off the bass drum, stuck a pillow in it, and then put the tunnel thing on. And I said to him, "Are you bonkers?" He said, "Why?" I said, "Because you've just stopped the resonating my bass drum by taking the front head off. Number one, I've lost all the bottom frequencies now." I said, "You've now got rid of any kind of nice round length to my bass drum, and you're trying to get it from the tunnel, but you muted the drum." "Oh, no. You'll find it, it'll leak through and blah, blah." Anyway, he just got on with it. But we know as drummers, and this is another important, drummers got to take care of your instrument. The amount of drummers that can't tune and everything like that, right? Be proud of your sound. Be proud of experiment. I haven't found a volume knob on a drum yet. So you should hit it on 0 and hit it on 11 and find out what the drum does, and find out how to bring out the body and the fatness of the drums, what it does to your technique when you suddenly realize you've got to hit really powerful, and how to control it the opposite when you've got to do those nice ghost notes, which all have to be consistent. It's your job to take care of your sound and produce a great sounding drum kit that can be recorded. But I certainly would never, ever change the way I play live to recording. Personally, for me, I've never found an issue, and I won't do it any different either. I'd agree with most of that, really. And like you say, if you come in with a very well honed kit because of the way that you play it and tune it, and it's all lovely, then also it's going to save them time and money in the studio at the end of the day, because they're not faffing about. No. The only thing I would say is, yes, when you're recording, I might have 6 snare drums there. I might have 3 ride cymbals, 3 different hi-hats, right? Flavors. Because, when you're in a certain room, certain mics, certain leads, certain preamps, everything like that, something that you might not sound great can sound great, and it can be the opposite. So you need to have the array of colours and sounds in a studio.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, it's so much commonplace for a guitarist to rock up with 5-10 different guitars and try loads of different amps. Why should it be any different for the drum kit? I'm very much the same as you. If I do studio sessions, I'll take 4 of my, the 4 of my differing snares and a selection of cymbals. I've used Peisty for years, the same as yourself and my dad and stuff, and as far as I'm concerned, they're my sound and my signature, to excuse the pun for the signature
Yeah,
symbols.
correct.
But, obviously, like you say, if you're in session and they go, oh, well, the amount of rock sessions I do, the one band that I do, Devil Fire, which is kind of led by the main guy, they're very particular on, for some reason, they just like, it has to be Zildjians, has to be this, has to be that. So it's like, okay, that's fine. But, as you said, for yourself, if I was more involved, it would be, taking some 2002s, taking some signatures, different sizes of hats, try it out, and that would be the playing and chopping and changing. Maybe some different take an extra an extra floor tom that's a 16, because I usually just use 10, 12, 14s, but take a 16 in as well if you want the deeper tones, that kind of thing. Have those bits and pieces
right
at your disposal, ready to go.
I mean, it's like because I'm in Uriah Heep, the door's open for me, so I'm obviously I'm right in the band and everything, so I'm hearing sounds that I want to try out. When you're session, you haven't got time for that. As I said, there is a massive difference. A session, you do as you're told. He wants you to play on the Chad Valley crap 99p kit, play on it because that's what he wants. Fine, right? Your skill is to play correctly. They sort the sound out.
Yeah.
But with Heap, I'm experimenting with sounds. I've got a gong drum. I played the gong drum with my finger because the end of my finger was the only texture that gave like a heartbeat. A mallet was too hard. A brush was no good. A hot rod was no good. A stick was no good. So I ended up doing it with my finger. And it's all those things that I played like an African thing. Boom, 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 like muting and stuff like that. It's all those things that ballad suits that with a heartbeat all the way through. And I came up with the sounds through, again, your experience tells you it. And you can hear the sound, you can hear the rhythm, and now I want to find the texture and the right intensity of what it is I need to do. Whether it's that snare drum, no, I need to tune it down because it needs to be fatter and a bit deeper, or the hi-hats are too high frequency in the mix. Let me get the 16s out because they're a lower tone. They're going to sit better in the mix. Things like that that I would do in the studio because you've got the time to change everything around and record it. No, it's not good. Try something else, and away you go. But good question, James.
Yeah,
and you will hear from other drummers that they do change their playing when they go in the studio. You will hear it a lot, but it doesn't mean you have to.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. I've been in circumstances where they've said, it needs a lighter touch or a heavier touch or whatnot, and it's kind of like, okay, well, the kit is the way it's sounding. The way I'm hitting it is the most optimum to get the sound out of the kit. So I can try these things, but I've had a producer turn around and they've like you say, it's a session, so you do the best that you can, but he was just not understanding of. I put this massive bell ride on, Zildjian bell ride, and it was just ridiculous. It was too much for the song. It was obvious, but they wanted to go with it. And he was like, we're just not getting a feel. It's not a thing. And me, when I was hitting it, it was like it was a brick, and I tried different sizes of drumstick in the end just to try and make it feel a bit more comfortable. And in the end, I said, look, it's literally like you've told the bass player to wire up his basic guitar strings, and it's not quite getting that flavour. So it's like, let's just try a standardised small cymbal. And we chopped it around, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, there's the feeling there, there's the sound there. Because I've got the resonance and the rebound and all of that, It kind of almost got to the point where it felt a little bit like, do I end up saying, okay, well, maybe we need to kind of just, take a breather and come back to it type thing. But, like you say, it's a session. You can't really do that.
So those two are really separate.
Yeah.
People have got to get it in their heads that when you're being booked to do a session, you do what the producer or the artist said. I mean, luckily for me now, because I've got a name, people ring me up because they want the way I play. So if I do an album, I just get on with it, Russ. We're just going to, the bass player will end up following you, and then the guitarist or whatever it is. So that's a handy thing. But another thing I want to say on the recording, you'll hear it again, is a lot of people get told to play, keep it simple, keep it simple, keep it simple. When you're one of the biggest load of, I say it's one of the biggest load of bullshits I've ever heard in my life is the phrase less is more. I can't stand it. Now, the only reason that comes into play and keep it simple is because these drummers are trying to be flash, and in a recording, right, the amount of people that play out of time is unreal. And the last thing you want is to do another take because you try to be clever and it's out of time, and you hit the rims and it's not consistent and the ghost notes are not right, and it just sounds like someone falling down the stairs. But look at 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover. Now, Steve Gadd, right? That is not a simple drum beat. End of. Why is it on there? Well, it's on there because it's played beautifully. That's the difference. That's why less isn't more. The right drum part is more. You play the right drum part. If it's simple or complicated, doesn't matter. If it's played right, it will sound fantastic.
Yeah, that's a really good myth to dispel, really, actually, what you said.
When I spoke to Jay Ruston, I said to him, I said, what's the score with the... Because I like to get on with the... I want to learn myself. He might have a trick up his sleeve about sound or playing or whatever it is. And I said to him, what about drum fills? He said, what about them? I said, well, do you prefer them to be a bit more simple? I know in rock, sometimes it can come across more powerful, if you like, with a bit more air and space in it. No, you do what you like as long as it played in time. Brilliant. So now all these things, no, there's no dampening on the kit. Oh, the kit sounds fantastic. No, play what you want. All those things allow me to relax. And then I can, I haven't got to change my playing. I haven't got to not get off on my drum sound because it's muted all over the place. It allows me to totally relax and play a great drum part, which is my job, is to put down an amazing drum part for my fellow musicians. And the more relaxed and confident you are, the easier it is.
Yeah, and the quicker and the better the takes, they're going to end up with that gold dust that they were looking for from you in the first place.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that's a pretty good question for that. Right. So should we jump on to the next question, which is from Leanne Rose, and she's from USA. She's from New York, and her question is. Are there any tips you can give for a beginner drummer that's looking to build a career but not sure where to start?
Leanne, good question. Well, as we've touched on earlier, you've got to have an amount of skill to present to a musical project that might come your way. It's no good. You should never, ever... I always, like a water line, I do a water line. When the water line here, you can breathe easy. When the water line is here, you're now struggling. And a lot of people will put their skill levels up here, or they'll do a gig that's up here, and then they get deflated, their confidence goes, and they think they can't play. And you've got to remember, you can only be as good as what you are at the stage that you are in your journey of playing this great instrument. So as a beginner, first protocol is, the foundation is the key. We all know that, right? But work on your groove. A groove will outdo anybody else in any situation. Groove will win the day. Work on your internal balance between the hi-hat, bass drum, snare drum, and when you're playing dynamics around the kit, it's balanced. Nothing is too heavy, too light. The ghost notes are up and down. Play balanced, play well, play in time, get your internal clock really fine-tuning that. And the way to do that, you've got to play everything with a click track. Play everything. The click track is the reference of perfected time. Now, as musicians, we don't necessarily want to play in perfect time. There are situations where you're told to, like, say hip-hop and pop stuff, when everything's on track. You can't be moving around too much. But if you've got to learn to transfer the many hours of playing with a click track into your internal clock, and then your internal clock subdivide. Every professional drummer I know, the secret is I'm singing internally the subdivisions, because you can't just rely on book that, but you go out of time. There has to be a reference of something somewhere. So you start off with your click, and you practice everything with a click so that the spaces are right, and you've got control over what you're doing. And then you sing the internal subdivisions to keep you in time even better. It also makes you more musical. I mean, I even do it's almost a Texas shuffle, but it's a double-handed shuffle with Uriah Heep. It's famous for it, and a lot of drummers can't play it because they don't practice their left hand to get the doubles together. But I'm singing a big band part when we're doing that, because it helps with do I do that because it helps me swing more. It's not about I know what the song is, but I want the swing. The part isn't moving all over the place. So I'm just shuffling away. And the best way of making that swing is I sing the big band parts to help me swing. So I know it's quite long-winded what I said then, but, basically, everyone starts to learn this in a couple of weeks, but it's understanding this, because they're frightened. When you first start to play, you're concentrating on limbs. Of course you are. You haven't got time to feel the quarter note. We understand that. But the more you practice with a click, with everything, hopefully that starts to translate back into your internal clock.
Yeah, which, as you touched on before, having that confidence and with a click as well can benefit for future work, especially with so many things operating on track these days as well, and people taking recordings out from the studio and dumping half of them onto stems so that they can be used live. Yeah. And your confidence with a click is going to keep you locked in with those types of gigs, as well as, like you say, giving that confidence. And yeah, I like when you're saying about what you hear internally, it's kind of what I've always used and described as like my inner monologue, to kind of keep the space and the comfort there and playing through, and yeah, I think that's really good.
Because as drummers, we don't have any reference of time. Our reference of time is the click. You take the click out, where's the reference of time? It's your internal clock, and everyone's and this is the other thing. Don't be fooled by the other musicians claiming that drums keep you in time. They're responsible for the time as much as you, and they get lazy sometimes, which is why they play out of time and they push and pull in you on the quarter note. No, it's your job to internalize the imaginary groove. Any decent band with any decent song, you could take any musician out and you can still feel the quarter note, the silent quarter note, the magic of groove. And their job is to be as one with you. That's the magic, as one, but not necessarily listen. They subconsciously listen. Everyone listens to everybody subconsciously, but internally, they still got to be responsible for their own time, not just rely on the drummer.
Yeah. A lot of musicians do kind of can lean on us a lot more than they really should, can they? Or
that's right.
Or even get arsey, and come off of a stage or whatever and go, whoa, what the hell was with that? So, well, aren't we all supposed to be working in harmony to create this great sound?
Yep.
So if that's the thing, and like I'm sure you've experienced it plenty of times, if the rest of the band seems to be fighting against you, how can you? It's difficult enough to keep it locked in then if they're all really pushing and pulling against each other.
Well, I said that's a little trick. Actually, going back to James on the recording, if he wants to talk about the recording, is first thing I do, especially with Heep, I go round there and. Obviously, we get the faders, don't you? Got the 10 faders on for your headphones. I go and I turn the click straight off. You're not having that. You're not having that. You're not having that. You play the one timekeeper. That's me. Because if I want to sit and push and you're listening to the click, you've now got two timekeepers. And that's why it goes out of time. So if I want to push it and sit on it, I have the click. So the click, I treat the click as my percussion friend. He's not a click. He's playing with me. That's just a reverse psychology I do on myself. Whenever there's a click or anything, right, okay, John, yeah, you're the click, right? Yeah, I get a cowbell. Yeah, you're going to play cowbell. Yeah, but you're going to play it with my tempo. I don't actually play to the click. The click is playing with me. Subconsciously, I do that. Then I haven't got to be scared of it. And then I turn it off from everybody else because you're not playing to two timekeepers. If I want to push and pull, you go with me. That's a good tip, I think.
I think that's a brilliant tip. A couple of the shows that I do, and the one particular one that MD, which is the Jamiroquai tribute, Space Cowboy. Any of the musicians that have come into that, a few of them have said, because a lot of it's with click and sequence for the video wall and stuff, a lot of them have said, oh, can I have click track? And I've just fundamentally refused. No, I said, the drummer, i.e. me on most of the gigs, but even anyone else that steps in, if they're good enough players, they push and pull, they keep the feel, the click is their, harmonic guide, so to speak. You guys play off of them, And it's like, in the studio, I'd much prefer to go in and go, right, okay, I lay it down to the click, remove the click, and everybody else plays to the drums. Because like you say, you've put that energy in, and, and you want to be able to bring that feel, before and after the click sometimes, to maybe give it a little bit more edge building up to a chorus, say, or something, and then lay it back when you come back into a verse ever so slightly. And like you say, if everybody's on click, I've done a few tours out where everybody's insisted on click, and it's been even worse because it's been a silent stage anyway, so you've only got the drums acoustically vibing. Everybody's on click, and then all of a sudden they just feel a slight shift one side or the other of the click, and they're panicking.
Yeah, that's right.
And it's like, well, no, get rid of it out your ears. Just have the band and your core click, your drummer, so to speak, and you immediately eliminate that problem.
Well, if you had a percussion player playing with you, right, he wouldn't ignore you and say, "Oh, you're speeding up, so I'm staying here." He goes with you. It's the same thing. Percussion player is no different to a click, and that's, as I said, that's been so helpful for me to relax in studios when I've done sessions for people with Uriah Heep, whatever it is. Okay, well, I want a cowbell. I want it low so that I can hear the frequencies and I'm not struggling to hear it. I said, but he's now John, and John is now my percussion mate. And John, I'll count you in, and then you just follow me. Yeah. And already I'm seeing a percussion player. So the click is gone now, and now I'm free to just bounce around and do what I need to do.
And I'd be interested to see whether you think of this thought or not. But what I've told people a lot of the time to do with click is, I've always said, for me, what works is once you're confident with the click and you know the arrangements in the song, like, for example, if you're using it live regularly, I've found that once you get into that groove, if I can't hear the click, I'm in a good place because it's sat in nicely with the music. And then I know when it's starting to push and pull, because all of a sudden I can then just start to hear that click come back in again, because it does just sound like another percussive piece of instrument until you're drastically wandering from it. That's how I kind of feel mine, and that's what I've usually described to my students in the past, is that if you can really feel it and you lock with it, it's almost like you don't hear it, you just kind of, you're feeling it.
Yes, that's right. It's just in the distance here. The other tip about people learning, one for Leanne, is when you put a click on, don't put a click on. Right? If you have a click going, not really inspiring, is it? But if you've got like a percussion part that's making you dance a bit. Right, there we got it. It's now you're feeling something. You're not going to feel anything from that. You learn. Even when you experience, you put on something that's got a little bit more feel to it. It helps you swing a bit more with certain music and certain playing that you do. You haven't always just got to have a cowbell doing 120 BPM.
Yeah, that's it, and that's the thing, and it's so much easier to do that nowadays. Like I've got this electric behind me. If if you want to sit on a groove, I don't have to just like hit the metronome button. You can just put on a nice little pattern to give you that feel and that vibe, and then like you were saying earlier about like getting that big band sound in your head. You just adding more feel to play along to, then, aren't you, to kind of like smooth and lock in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's cracking. Shall we get in another question?
Yeah.
So we got apologies if I pronounce this name wrong. Joaquin Mito, I think it is Mato, from La Paz, Bolivia.
Wow.
And they have said, how important do you believe knowledge of sight reading is for a full-time musician?
Great question. It comes up in all my clinics and master classes. I speak about it. Wacky, great question. And I played in Bolivia. Believe you me, it's very, very difficult. I had to have a guy with an oxygen tank by the side of me. The air's so thin up there, and it's very, very dangerous. You literally you go up 10 stairs and you're gasping for air. That's why not a lot of bands play in Bolivia, but we did, and it was fantastic. The people were great. So reading, okay. I called it an asset. Again, if that phone rings and it's a reading gig and you can't read, you're stuffed. So, yes, learn to read. Is it, oh, you must be a reader? No, because I learned to read because my teacher taught me to. And it served me well as a professional musician. But I haven't had to read music for donkey's years. And when I'm doing sessions, okay, my reading allowed me to learn how to transcribe. But there's probably a million mistakes in my transcribing, but it doesn't matter. To get the job done, doesn't matter if I put down a bottle of pop and a packet of crisps. It doesn't matter, right? As long as I can, as I said, the result is what you play. But it's not necessary, but it's a fantastic asset to have. So I would always advise everybody to learn how to read. You get a better understanding of music, and it allows you to transcribe. It allows you to change. If you get a session with no music and it's got a few stops and funny phrasings, you've got to write them down. You can't be the memory king all the time, because once your confidence goes down because you got it wrong a couple of times, you're in serious trouble. That red light goes on, you're panicking like mad. You'll never get it right. So having something written down where you can glance at it, understand it, as much as it takes the pressure off you. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've always said it. Even if you only learn the fundamentals so that you can do your cheat sheets, even if it just looks like hieroglyphics to everyone else. If you're going into a session or live gig or whatever, that it can be, the difference between, like you say, that red light coming on, that panic, or being able to glance over and go, I've at least got some notes for sections. Like I've always found that, like with even just on a set list, if I just scribble a couple of little bits of notation next to the song name or something, even if it's just a top and tail, starts and ends,
That's right.
or that tricky little midsection that they might have, an odd little stop for or whatever.
Yeah.
Quick jot down. You're glancing over to your left or wherever it is, and
the only reason I say it's not, it's an asset and it's not necessary 100%, is because Jonathan Sugarfoot, what's his name? Michael Jackson's drummer,
yes,
Moffat.
Yeah, Moffat,
right?
yeah.
Doesn't read music. It hasn't stopped his career. Dennis Chambers doesn't read music. Didn't stop his career. Buddy Rich doesn't read music. Didn't stop his career. Yeah, you might say, yeah, but that's 3 drummers out of 10 million. Yeah, I get it. I'm just saying that proves that you don't need to read music. But in my opinion, in today's world, it's hard enough being a musician as it is. You need to cover, like I said before, no styles. Learn everything. Bring it into your ingredient box. And when the phone rings, you're supposed to say yes. So if it's a reading gig, you can't say no, can you?
Yeah, because like you say, it's in your ingredients. You've got it there. It's part of your toolbox, or however you want to call it. It's another skill set that you have at your disposal, regardless as to whether you use it or not. Really, in 20 years or so, I think I hadn't used any of the sight reading stuff I'd learnt. And then last year, all of a sudden, I've probably done more sight reading than I ever think I ever will do again. You just don't know. Like you say, the phone goes off and you don't know what they're going to say on the end of that. All of a sudden, I was in a situation where they're like, "Oh yeah, we want you to do this, blah blah blah." I was like, "Great, okay, send me the material." Oh yeah, we've just got the sheet music for it.
charts. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, no problem. And then just to piece together on the original tracks that you could find out in the ether there, because they didn't have the best packed level. But at least having that tool set meant that you weren't going, crap, how am I going to get these tunes in my head? Or, you've got that support.
I'll give you a real life situation, right? We did a big festival, 10,000 people, way up in the Swiss Alps in Switzerland. And we were on with Joe Cocker and Kenny Aronoff. If you don't know Kenny Aronoff, he's still he's been about the number one rock session drummer for about 25 years in America. He was depping, and I can't remember the drummer now from Joe Cocker, but he was depping to do Joe Cocker's gig. He has written everything out. He had to. He said, I can't remember all of these songs off the top of my head. He's written everything out, and he was sight reading the gig with Joe Cocker. So that just goes to prove in that situation, if you want to be a big session player, anything like that, he made the gig easy by charting it out and playing well. If you can't read, you would never have got that gig, and then a million other gigs,
Yeah, and exactly, and you, sometimes it can only take one gig to be spotted by someone else that goes, yeah, they're great, and and they check behind the scenes, and what was he like on your gig, and oh, fantastic, not a problem, did his homework, blah blah blah, go on that gig, end up as a bit of a train wreck because you might not have that in your information. But yeah, it comes back to then your waterline thing as well. Then it's like if you've already learnt those bits and pieces, you're not drowned in.
No, your pressure's off you.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, yeah, great. Okay, that's good. So where we are, we've got a couple of questions left. Let's have a look. So, okay, next question is from Chloe Belize, and she's from Nantes in France. And she says, I've been working through the Jay Wanamaker Drum Rudiments dictionary and feel overwhelmed with them. My question is, do you really need to know all 40 rudiments, and what's best to focus on?
What a person to ask. I'm the king of controversial stuff about the rudiments. Well, let's look. This is it. And again, it's just my opinion, right? All your listeners and everything, from every drummer that comes on, are going to have a slight different opinion about certain things. That's great. Certain drummers might click better with certain students and teachers and blah 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 blah. Right, rudiments. In my opinion, there's only two, and they are the key to playing drums. Singles and doubles. That's it. We'll talk. You bring the buzz roll in. We know it's a slightly different technique. Okay, but basically, all the rudiments are made up of singles and doubles. Now, the thing is, it's like anything. If the foundation's good, everything that sits above the foundation is easy. If your singles are good and your doubles are good, you learn the combination of a 5-stroke roll. It's easy. You've only got to then learn the accent. You can put the accent in so you get the little bit of movement in there and make sure that the doubles are all nice and even. We get that. But basically, a paradiddle is 2 singles and a double. A 5-stroke roll is 2 doubles and a single. A flam is a quiet single and a loud single. I mean, it doesn't matter what rudiment it is. They are all a combination of singles and doubles. Now, my opinion is, because I learned the 26 American rudiments when I went to Bob Armstrong. That's all there were. I think there's actually 47 rudiments now, actually. I think they're making ones up all the time, calling them something. Now, they're fantastic for marching drummers. They've got one drum and they need the variety of phrases, right, to play on that drum. So they need to learn all of that stuff because that's all they're doing. On the drum kit, we don't play like marching drummers. Sometimes we have to play a marching segment, if you like. But to me, I got better quicker, and I made my skills and my technique became better and quicker by focusing on singles and doubles. I wanted them to be the best they could be. dynamics, speed, control. And then, as I said, I never play my rudiments, but I can play all of them really, really well because my singles and doubles are so good. I just learn the phrase. I'll bring the 7-stroke roll phrase in, I can play it. So I think that if more people focused on the two elements, so there's only two things, if they get really good, you just learn the phrase of what you want to do. And when you play the drums, you know this, Lars, when you play the drums, right, you're playing rudiments without knowing you're playing rudiments because it's a flow basically of 16th notes, right? You're playing a flow of straight time or triple time because there's only two forms of time. There's straight time and swing time, right? Triple time. And all you're doing is playing a flow of stuff. And within that, there's a backwards 5-stroke roll, there's a 7-stroke roll, there's a flam accent, you're playing rudiments without knowing. That's what you end up doing. It's a bit like talking. I don't have to always go back to blackbird, blackbird, what's all you saying that for? Well, that's a word I learned. You know what I mean? You don't play the drums, go, right, I'm going to go round to the tom-tom, I'm going to play a patter fla fla there. No, you don't. You're playing a flow of beats and rhythms and stuff. And within that whole area, there's rudiments galore coming out. But you haven't got to direct it. It's a nightmare for people. You've got 40 rudiments. You're going to spend half an hour on each one. So how long are you going to... You'll be there all flaming week. And do yourself in. If you're just going to get it consistent like a robot, say that's about 10 seconds. That's 10 seconds. You did that for 15 minutes. You know, you're starting to embed a fantastic foundation technique that will serve its purpose in drumming. You do the same with doubles. Now your hands are wizards. You've only got to put the dynamics in. And then to me, it's that gets that. You don't learn that, but you're only good that much because it's too much to learn and too much to focus on. And I'm worried about my hands. And then, yeah, but I didn't spend enough time doing all my paradiddles. I've got to go in. No, they haven't. You know, at the end of the day, I just think it's all about singles and doubles. And the better they are, everything else takes care of itself. It worked for me. That's all I'm saying. You know, maybe other people think that doing all of the rudiments feeds them better ingredients. That's fine. I know that playing drums, you know, I play a lot of flaming music, 64 countries. I'm playing over 100 days a year. And I'm also doing the festivals. I'm watching other drummers because I adore music and adore drums. And I want to learn off people. I don't want to miss out on something at all. So I'm always being observant. And I'm watching everybody in all the bands. Doesn't matter whether it's the Foo Fighters, Megadeth, Joe Cocker. You know, I'm trying to think of them all now, but so many drummers I've seen, and we're all doing the same thing. We're all doing the same thing. We're playing great grooves with great drum fills, and they've all got the same ingredients in, singles and doubles. Oh, yeah, but he played a 5-stroke roll then. Yes, he did, but he didn't consciously play it. It happened through the flow of playing.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it. The singles and doubles are always going to be your foundation for everything. Like you said, you know, it's I always think it's a little bit ridiculous, especially as I believe that you know, she's still fairly quite early on in her learning, and as far as I know, it's the tutor that she's got basically just does mainly snare drum, and I think that's why the book has come into play for this. But it's overwhelming to be thrown. You know, here you go. There's 30, 40 odd things. It's like, no.
Look, Lars, the hardest thing on the drums to do, we all know it, is the double stroke. Yeah. It fails people on so many levels. It fails them because they're weak hand. They can never get the doubles properly. They can't play it on a 16-inch floor tom because the doubles are not played properly, right? Yeah. They can't do the double-handed shuffle because the left hand won't keep up with the right hand. There's so many aspects where the double has become a problem. Right. You've only got to get your doubles as good as your singles. Mm. And now all that other stuff is taken care of because that's in it. This is why people can't do it. I do it to the classic Yeah, everyone loves the Dave Grohl Queens of the Stone Age where they do the Herter, right?
Yeah.
It's not the Herter. They've labelled it the Herter now, right? It was my day before it was labelled the Herter. It was called the Billy Cobham Rudiment because we first heard it on the Spectrum album, right? And he played it incredibly well, and it's a beautiful phrase to play. But it's a fast weekend playing singles, and it's a double with the right hand. And if your double's no good or your weak left hand can't play fast enough, forget it.
Yeah.
So that's why it's both of those have got a double and a single. And if your single's not good enough, or your double's not good enough, how can you ever play that? Doesn't matter how many times you practice the Herter. It's going back to the foundation. If there's a flaw in your foundation, it comes up in your playing every time.
Yeah, be like trying to jump on a racetrack in a car with three wheels. You're missing that one key element that makes it all up from the ground up. I certainly do agree. I'm on championing your side on that in the respect that once you're past a double, it's just made up of those two rudiments, and the rest is how you choose to use it.
Opens up the whole thing. Yeah, it's half a drumming, isn't it? It's half. Singles is half, doubles is half, and then the dynamics gives us. I call dynamics in drumming our melody. It gives us our melody, right? That's one thing. But as soon as you go, that's our melody. That's what people latch onto. They don't latch onto that.
No.
That's just da. But as soon as you go, no, boop gap, that's their melody. So dynamics is your icing on the cake. You get your singles, you get your doubles, you put your dynamics in. Now you can play the drums, as far as I'm concerned. Obviously, we've got independence with the thing. I get that, but you're certainly a long way forward.
Yeah, that's it. And at the end of the day, we are serving music that's played to fundamentally entertain and get people to enjoy and dance to and all sorts. And if we're sounding sticky and not got that foundation, then we're not grooving anything really, are we? We're kind of just falling off a cliff with trying to do all these bigger and supposedly better things where we just literally haven't got that basic level nailed in the first place. I totally agree with you on those. Great. Well, so where are we? So we've got one more question.
Yeah.
And that's from Alec Broadhurst, and he's from the UK, from Kent. And he asks, as a rock drummer, what is the best way to keep match fit for all your shows?
Having good technique. Don't be fooled. Having good technique. I'm a very visual drummer. So, I'm really like, but that's not adding anything. It's making me, I can't play like this. I can't play without movement. I'm too passionate, too emotional for the music not to move. I've got to get into it. And some drummers do it more than others. But your technique takes care of power and fitness. Obviously, to a degree, you've got to keep yourself fit. I do a lot of touring. I can't go out partying every night. I'll be a flaming mess, right? I can't go out eating McDonald's every day. You've got to have a balanced food. Got to know when to party, when not to party. If you like cycling, it's going to help your cardio, right? Tommy Aldridge, that's why he still plays like a 20-year-old at 73, because he's mad on mountain biking, the same as Brian Tichy, mad on mountain biking. All of that adds to their cardio, because if you're doing a 2-hour show and really playing it, they've proven that you're actually fitter than a professional footballer. The amount of workout you do, because you're constant all the time. So your technique takes care of the biggest percentage of it. If you've got bad technique, now you're going to have aches and pains. You're struggling to do this, but everything goes out the window. But your technique allows you to do most of it, and taking care of yourself on the road. And as I said, if you like a bit of cardio, a bit of fitness, a bit of running or whatever it is, all that's going to do is just add to the pot and keep you able to do the shows. Basically, I can't have anything where it's going to compromise my playing. I would never play drunk. Don't do the drugs thing. I want to enjoy the music. I want it to be the special night for those people. And I want it. It's like I treat every gig like my first and last. The first gig, you might be nervous, but how amazing is that? You're doing your first ever gig. Wow. And if I was going to die tomorrow, wouldn't I want to play my arse off on the last gig? And I treat every gig like my first and last. And that's why I can get so excited. You're playing the same song. You played the same song for the 100 shows. No, I haven't. I feel different. I've eaten different. The stage is different. The fans are different. I want to try and get a bit more groove out of this song here. Oh, I'm going to do a bit more of a Larry drum fill there. I'm not a robot. I want to be special for that night, first and last gig, and I enjoy playing the drums that much that keeps me going. And the only way I maintain such a fitness level is because I don't get drunk. I don't do the drugs. I know when to party. My technique's good. And I do take care of myself enough to make sure that I can do the shows.
Yeah, and actually, just picking up on what you said about taking every show as your first and your last. I really like that analogy because you can get, and I see it quite a lot with musicians around me in the respect that they get very complacent.
That's right.
And they're in and out because they're doing the same songs but yeah, spinning it on its head and going, wow, could be, it's like my first and my last. But then looking at the surroundings around you and going, well, it is a different city, it is a different venue, it is a different audience, and a different this and that and the other. Rather than going, oh, just another schlep into somewhere else. Your own mentality is gonna. If you're down or depressed or anxious or all of that, then that's also going to affect your technique as well. So good body, good mind, and the foundations again. The technique being the foundation, and being comfortable.
You take care of your drumming, right? And you know that your technique's good. You know that you got a good groove. You play good fills. I don't think about technique, what I'm going to play. I'm enjoying the audience. This is my conversation to them. I don't want them looking on their phones or having a conversation with their mates. It's my job to make sure you have the greatest time in the world. Because if you do, I do. And that's what gets me going. And I see it as a challenge. You are going to take notice of me as a drummer. As a drummer, I want you to start. You're going to do that with my... If that's not firing up to get you do that, I'm doing my job wrong. And that's the way I've always treated. I even do it sound check, for Christ's sake. I can't help it. Because I don't. The moment it starts to deteriorate a little bit, it's got me. I don't want it to do that.
Yeah.
I want that spark to be as exciting when I was 4 years old to when I have a heart attack on stage and die at 85 or whatever it is. You know what I mean? That's what I want.
Yeah, and it's going to keep the energy up for the like-minded musicians around you as well, isn't it? It's like if you're pumping from the back there and you're giving all this feel and this vibe, it can only but spread, And
music is totally emotion. You get the right emotions with the right amount of excitement, and you feed that to your musicians and to the audience. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, totally. And then it does mean that, like you say, if you're feeling it and vibing it. Even if you did a couple of fills and a few miss hits and bits and pieces like that, it just becomes part of the feel of that show, of that one specific unique night that happens, and then you're not coming off stage with people going, oh, I missed that note here and oh, that was grumpy there, because you've all come off elated going, what a show. Audience loved it, we've had great fun, move on to the next great night.
That's right.
Because that's the thing, If we're touring, if you become a professional musician and you're touring and you're working as much as you should be, then you're only gonna put yourself off from doing it if you're constantly in a negative situation.
Well, people have often said to me about, oh God, really hard touring. Yes, it is hard touring, and I hate doing 30 hours on a tour bus overnight. But you know what? The gigs cancel it out. And I make sure that I'm having the best fun I could ever have. Because if it was a chore, I wouldn't be on tour. Simple as that. And that's the rhyming slang I use to people. If it's a chore, don't go on tour. Because at the end of the day, you'll destroy you mentally, and you will lose gigs, and you'll have rows and everything. You know, you got to be you do have to have a certain mindset to be a tour musician, because it isn't easy. You've got to get on with people. You've got to learn when to shut your mouth, when to open it, and occupy your mind. And as I said, you turn up, and how can I make this gig the best gig? And I use those philosophies, and it sees me through. You know, I don't care if I played July Morning or Easy Living 2,000 times. I've never played it 2,000 times the same way. So I haven't played it 2,000 times in my eyes. I played it once.
Yeah.
And I'll play it once again on the next gig. And that's how I do it. So I don't understand musicians that get bored doing it. Bored? Are you joking? You're playing a wonderful flaming instrument. Why? Think about the groove more then. Think about that groove. How can I make it swing more? Or that drum fill? Or I can play any drum fill. Right. Think about a nice, tasty, how are you feeling in an emotion at that moment, and get a really cool, spacious drum fill. But, you know, something like that. It makes you feel good.
Yeah, that's it. There is, especially once you've got the confidence and you've done it so many times that it literally is, you know, in there, and you're playing it. You have got that. All of a sudden, it feels like you've got, you know, ages between each beat to think about. You know, it's like what I fundamentally do when I teach someone for the first time. I always approach with just a, you know, a standard fundamental, you know, rock groove. Do that, do that, do. Start with that. You know, get the pieces going, and once they're comfortable. And basically say that, you know, I want you to get to a point where we can have a chat, or you could do your shopping list in your head, or you can start to be thinking about what's coming up next, because it's so comfortable. And then, like you say, when you're on those types of gigs and you've done it for so long, you can then go, oh yeah, how can I embellish that? And then it becomes you're never playing the same song twice. And
Never play it twice.
Yeah, I really like that. I think
I
that's
never
really
ever
good.
play any song the same way. People might hear it and go, oh yeah, but you did that fill on the other one. Yes, there's certain things I have to do, because this is the other key one for pro drummers out there. Always be aware of the weakest link. You can't make them look like an idiot because you want to be the clever one. If they're not getting certain aspects of technical drumming, don't do it. It's as simple as that. You know, you've got to play to the weakest link. And whilst you can still have fun, you've always got to try and remember, sometimes I want to do a cross rhythm type thing because that's what I'm feeling at the moment. And then I have to pull back because I don't want to put them off. But the good thing about Heep is that they don't understand. And they literally just go like in their, that's where they are. And I could literally go all over the place and they'd still be there. But that's part of the confidence, knowing that they know I'm going to come back in time.
Yeah.
That's the way it works. You don't have to, I've always said, you don't have to understand everything. It's not necessarily about understanding. It's about executing. And if you execute something right, sometimes understanding can make you then think too much, and now you start fumbling. I've had this conversation with Mick, because Mick, the guitarist with Heep, you know, been there since day one. I don't know. I just play it. I feel it. I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what you know? I just play it and I feed it. Yes, that's what we need. That's the magic that intertwines with a level of understanding, if you like. They're the players that are all self-taught and don't really understand anything. There's so many fantastic aspects that they bring to the table, and I like that.
Yeah.
He doesn't get phased by me doing groups of fives or sevens or you know, polyrhythms of such, because he doesn't understand it, but he understands to keep that going. And if I get coming at a time, of course, it'll be a mess.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. So I'm free to really push the boat out quite a lot, really. And It's great because it makes it more musical, makes it interesting. And as I said before, I don't want to be thinking about playing. I want to be playing with emotion. And if that emotion hits odd groupings or whatever it is, it's because I'm feeling it at that time. That's it.
Yeah, it's working for that moment in time for what's vibing and what's coming from yourself, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, yeah, and like you say, it's almost like if you've got musicians like that around you, they're not overthinking the next step either, with, you know, too much knowledge floating around or whatever. And
They're just feeling it. It's about,
yeah,
if you talk to any amazing musician, they'll always turn around and say, well, I just feel it. And that's, I remember having a discussion with Simon Phillips, who was talking about odd time signatures, and a lot of drummers struggle with it. Yes, you've got to learn to count, but you can never be a great odd time signature if you count. I'm telling you that right now, because if your count's wrong, your one is wrong. End of. You've got to learn to feel the odd move, because feelings are correct. You don't get feelings wrong. Feelings are what they are, and that's what we're supposed to do on the drums. We feel where the quarter note, one, two, three, four, 1, 2. Jesus Christ, you know. And so, in an odd time situation, you just feel it. And as I said, when I'm playing with the guys, we did a track called Money Talks on one of the albums. I can't remember the album now. And they wanted a drum solo at the end, and the phrase was over 6/4, right? Well, I'm just fusing my backside off of it. I'm doing anything. It didn't phase them at all, because they were just just doing that, and I'm going all over the place, putting odd groupings in and everything like that. I'm having fun, but it doesn't phase them, because they've only just got to keep a quarter note going. And because, all right, they might not understand what I'm doing, they're hearing strange accents, which is the whole point. I don't want to go doom doof digga go digga digga gong gong digga bop 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 forget. That's not playing music to me. You know what I mean? I want to be expressive. I want to make mistakes. I want to push the boat out. I want to have the urgency, the tension and the release, the flair, the simple, the gaps, the fusion stuff. Because I can do it. I love to do it. I'm feeling it. I want to play it. I can only do that if my musicians are making me feel confident enough to do it, because they're not moving with the time. They're not panicking. Where's the one? They're just playing.
Yeah, that's it. And like you say, if you're just playing it and you're just feeling it, if there are any of those wanders or discrepancy, you're not trying to jump back to figure out where the one is. Everybody's on the same page, and you vibe it, and you will find it. You will come back to it comfortably, you know, rather than going, oh crap, I fell off the floor on that fill. Where are we? You know, yeah, feel is definitely, especially for the odd time signatures. I certainly say that I'm with you on that. Feel is the most important thing for that, because that's the thing, they come with their own complexities for a start anyway with the odd time signatures, so you still want to be able to make people get up and dance, or you know, groove to that fill, or you know, feel the intricacies of it, and enjoy it. And the rest of the band, like you say, it just sounds like they're just playing through. You haven't got a hard one every now and then, you know.
And not obvious. You know, if it's written like that, and the phrases like that, to play it like that, great, play it like that. But it's much better to just play, say 4/4, and when you do 7, but it should sound the same. It's just that, hang on, there's a funny odd move there. Yeah, because it's 7. But the actual concept of how you play is exactly how you play in 4/4. You haven't got to mark it, and it sounds stiff and obvious.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, I think that's a pretty good answer for that. Yeah. Well, that's all of our questions gone through, really, mate. And I hope
they got something out of it.
Oh, I think they got loads out of it.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. And thanks for doing this, mate. And
no worries at all.
Yeah, and hopefully everybody that's got their questions answered is pretty chuffed. And so thank you from Russell. Hope you guys all enjoyed this. Anything else that you'd like to add for any
Well, yeah,
tidbits of
I'd
advice?
say you've got to have a smile on your face. This is fun. Playing drums is supposed to be fun, like kicking a ball about with your mates, or going dancing with the girls, or whatever it is, puts a smile on your face. It's supposed to put a smile on your face. Yes, it's difficult to learn, because any practicality thing a human being does is difficult to learn. But remember, you've only got to learn it once. You haven't got to revisit it. So all those hours of and you've got to love boring. I've always said that. This is very boring. But if you love it, the results you get from it, I haven't got to relearn that. Once I've learned it and it's right, the technique smooth, nice, relaxed, nice, soft wrist movement, consistent beats. Yeah. So your technique's spot on. I haven't got to relearn it. It's learned.
Yeah.
But put the effort in and the time in and learn to love it, knowing that once you've got it and it's all working, my God, you're now going to be playing the most musical drums ever and enjoying it with so much fun and being paid for it. Oh, being paid to tour the world, for Christ's sake, playing in front of thousands of people. Everyone wants to do it. Yeah, why aren't you doing it? Look at your technique, singles and doubles, inconsistencies. Can't tune your kit, doesn't sound right, not hitting the backbeat properly. The nightmare for recorded drummers. You've got to hit the snare drum the same way all the time. They're the things you look at. Not, oh yeah, but this fill that I learned. No, but you can't do that, mate.
Yeah, totally. Oh, yeah, that's it, But
And
yeah, it's
double bass drum players. For goodness sake, double bass drums come along so much. We don't just go digga-dag, 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 forever amen. It's another bass drum note. You've got a wasted left foot, especially in rock. Forget the hi-hat. Jesus Christ, I haven't heard the hi-hat yet in rock. You know what I mean? You're stamping your foot for time, fine. But you don't hear the goddamn hi-hat because the 24-inch ride that you're smashing to bits has completely obliterated it. So get your foot used to another bass drum. Billy Caliuta, Steve Smith, Dave Weckl. They're all using double pedal. They're not going digger bag and digger bag. They're using it in fills because it's got to have a different articulation. As soon as you play a double stroke with one foot, it's going to sound completely different to 2 feet.
yeah.
But it's another bass drum. So why is it sitting there dead? Get it, hitting another bass drum beat, because there's so many fantastic phrases you can do by using your 2 feet.
Yeah, I've always advised people that even if you just, if you've got just a single bass drum or practice pad or whatever, just invest in a starter double bass drum or something, just so that you can, start to work on those and get a feel for it. Because I really like for fast rolls, I really do like to add double bass drum into it to, like you say, give that really nice consistency on both hits, rather than having maybe a second lazy hit,
right,
doing it with just the right foot or whatever, and
you got the power.
yeah,
It's another, if you want to step it up a bit, you've got the power. The double bass drum can be used in fills and grooves to add so much power with 2 feet that you'll never get with 1 foot.
yeah,
And that is an asset. Again, is it not necessary? No, it's not. But what an asset you've got. If you get a rock gig, and there's a lot of rock gigs out there, and you play double pedal, there's so much you can do with it.
yeah. Even just as something as simplistic as I've had people go, oh well, you do end washes on just the cymbal and it's a bit thin on the ground. I said, well, if you got a double pedal, you can have that going under that cymbal wash as well, and all of a sudden it's simplistic, it's easy, but you just fill out that sound, and it, what they're hearing out there all of a sudden goes from 1 foot going behind the cymbals to, and you've got just lovely
Great rumble,
drone. Yeah, and it's just simply by having that other little tool, that other little extension on your kit, really. Yeah, I totally agree with that. And I'd almost take the same thing, like you said, about the foundation for the singles and the doubles, and that's as far as I'd ever go, really, with anybody. If they went, oh, I'd like some exercises for my feet, so work on your singles, work on your doubles, and then it opens you up, and you got that great foundation on your feet then. And if you are in a situation where you're playing technically and you've got and there is room and the hi-hats are heard a little bit more, and you can do those splashes and the chicks and the bits and pieces and swing your left hand over for the little catch, notes and stuff, then you've got more control in your left foot because you've been practicing it. You know, you've got more strength there rather than it just sitting there doing, you know, counting away when you're not playing it. Yeah. So yeah, but no, this has been really great, mate, and thank you very much for joining us on this. It's been
thanks for asking.
And yeah, I shall sign us off now. Thank you everybody for your questions and whatnot. Thank you once again, Russ, for joining us, and maybe we can hopefully have you on again with a few different questions from some other people at some point. It would be
anytime, mate.
But thank you everybody for watching. Thanks, Russ, and I shall see you on the next one. Take care.
Cheers.